What would you do if one morning you woke up and your shadow was gone? Not missing. Not faint. Completely gone. As if you no longer belonged in this world. Tonight's story is about a man who discovered that losing your shadow means something else has taken your place. Arthur Lane was an ordinary man with an ordinary routine. He lived alone, worked in a bookshop, and walked home every evening through quiet, cobbled streets. But everything changed on a rainy Thursday morning. Arthur woke up, opened the curtains, and noticed something strange. Something impossible. The morning sun flooded the floor, but there was no shadow beneath him. He blinked. Stepped left. Stepped right. Nothing. No outline. No shape. No Arthur. He reached for his phone with trembling hands and turned on the selfie camera. His reflection was there. His body was there. But behind him, the room looked emptier, as if something fundamental was missing. He whispered to the empty room, his voice barely audible. "Where's my shadow?" He went to the bookshop early, hoping the warm lights and the familiar smell of old paper would calm him down. But as customers walked past him, he noticed worried glances. Not at him, but at the empty floor beside him. One elderly woman froze in place, her hand flying to her mouth. Her eyes widened in terror. "You're one of them?" Before Arthur could even ask what she meant, she backed away, trembling, and hurried out of the shop. The little bell on the door, jangling frantically. That night, the bookshop owner, Mr. Wilkes, insisted on talking. He pulled Arthur aside into his dusty back office, the air thick with the scent of leather and decay. He spoke in a low, quivering voice, his eyes darting towards the door. "If your shadow is gone, something has replaced it. Something that doesn't want to be seen yet." Arthur tried to laugh it off, a strained, hollow sound that echoed in the tiny room. But a cold dread was already coiling in his stomach. Every time he walked past a reflective surface, a shop window, a polished doorknob, a felt the blue, he felt like his reflection lagged just a fraction of a second behind his movements, or that something behind him shifted too slowly, just out of sight. That evening, on his way home, the street lamps flickered and buzzed overhead. A large puddle from the morning rain reflected the dim yellow light. Arthur stopped, intending to step around it, but then he froze. There were two reflections in the puddle. One was him, tired and pale. The other was a darker version of him, standing right behind, perfectly motionless. He spun around with a gasp. No one was there. The street was empty. When he looked back at the puddle, his reflection winked at him. Arthur staggered back and ran home, his heart hammering against his ribs. He locked every door, checked every window, his hands shaking so badly he could barely turn the keys. But the house felt different. It was colder than usual. Still, watching. He walked into the bathroom and flicked on the light, his own face in the mirror a mask of fear. The mirror fogged slightly from his ragged breath, and then a message wrote itself across the glass, condensing out of the steam. "I need a body." Arthur stumbled back, his legs giving way as he hit the wall. "What do you want from me?" he whispered, his voice cracking. The lights flickered violently. A whisper filled the bathroom, a dry, rasping sound that seemed to crawl directly into his ears. "Your life, your place, your shadow was only the beginning." The room grew darker as something began to form behind him in the reflection, not visible, but heavy, a palpable presence. Breathing. He didn't wait to see what it was. He grabbed his coat and fled the house in a blind panic, running through the dark streets with no destination in mind other than away. His lungs burned, but he didn't stop until he found himself banging on the door of the bookshop. Mr. Wilkes opened it, his face pale and drawn. He listened to Arthur's frantic story, his expression growing grimmer with every word. "It hasn't taken your body yet," the old man said, his voice grave. "But once the creature fully forms, it replaces you. You fade, and it lives as you, wearing your face, walking in your shoes." "What can I do?" Artug begged, grabbing the old man's arm. "There has to be a way. Mr. Wilkes disappeared into the back of the shop and returned with an old, tarnished mirror shard, carefully wrapped in a piece of black cloth. "Shadows hate their own reflection," he explained, pressing it into Arthur's hand. "They are born of darkness and absence. If you see it forming, force it to face itself. It's your only chance." Arthur returned home, clutching the shard like a lifeline. The moment he stepped through the door, every light in the house snapped off at once. The darkness that fell wasn't natural. It was thick, living, crawling. It felt like wading through oil. It was breathing. A shape began to peel itself from the far wall of the living room. Slowly, steadily. It stood tall, black and featureless. An abyss in the shape of a man, Arthur Gasped. It was his shadow. Fully alive, the creature stepped forward, imitating Arthur's posture perfectly except for its smile. A wide, cracking grin stretched unnaturally across its featureless face. "You lived your life. Now it's my turn." Its voice was a distorted echo of his own. It lunged on pure instinct. Arthur raised the mirror shard. A scream tore through the room, a sound of static and grinding glass. Dark smoke erupted from the creature as it writhed, twisting, shrinking, but it didn't die. It clung to Arthur, a desperate, shadowy arm trying to drag itself back into his body, to merge with him. He pressed the shard harder against the writhing mass. The sharp edge of the glass cut deep into his palm, mixing his warm, red blood with the cold, dead reflection. A blinding flash filled the room, and then everything went silent. When Arthur opened his eyes, he was alone, breathing heavily. His hand was bleeding freely onto the floor. But when he looked down, his shadow was there, stretched out behind him, dark and solid, back where it belonged. He exhaled a long, shuddering sigh of relief until he noticed something terrifying. The shadow's head turned toward him, independently, and it smiled. If you ever wake up without your shadow, don't panic, because the moment you notice it missing means it has already found you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more haunting tales. Sleep well. Well.